this isn't related specifically to women, I thought it was a really good idea to kick it off as far as February 1st with talking about heart disease, because it's the #1 killer of Americans. About over 600,000 people die of heart disease every year in the United States. That's 1 in every 4 deaths. It's the leading cause of death for men and for women. And, just to get a little hippy dippy about it, it is our heart. It's where we hold love, right? And you think about how much of our love is judged or repressed, or we don't live the lives that we love, or we've got old heartaches that we've never dealt with, or like emotional blocks. I think if you're looking at health in an integrative way, you have to look at the mind and the emotions, obviously, body, mind, spirit, emotions. And if you don't look at those factors, even if you break it down to it being long-term stress from, missing a boyfriend from 20 years ago, or resentment, then that can certainly impact your health currently. So coronary heart disease, which is like buildup of plaque in your heart arteries and veins, is the most common type of heart disease. And every year, 735,000 Americans have a heart attack. I'm going to upload onto my Naturopathic MD Facebook page, if you follow us, a great video by, I forgot her name. Some beautiful blonde named Elizabeth. And she's awesome, and she does a video on Elizabeth Banks, and she acts out a heart attack in a woman, because so many women, we're doing, we're multitasking because men can't, or so they say, and managing all of these different things and not giving time to themselves. And heart attacks are the #1 killer of women. So I'm going to upload that video for later, but it's a really cool and funny video. So it's an amazing, some people have a heart attack. I think it's like 70% of people who have their first heart attack die from it. It's a crazy number, and they have no warning. And so we want to do some functional medicine integration to decrease the risk of having a heart attack and a stroke, so that you do have warning, because high lipids are not the only warning sign of cardiovascular disease. And your systems in your body, they don't function by themselves. And so we've finally gotten the idea in convention that diabetes and prediabetes and elevated blood sugars actually drive cardiovascular disease. And as more and more Americans are getting diabetes, I think it's like 60% of American adults are pre-diabetic or diabetic, which is an amazing statistic. And when you think about how we are the most obese country in the world, and there's a lot of factors in that, right? But these diseases like diabetes and heart disease are diseases of lifestyle. You don't accidentally get them, right? And so how you move, how you sleep, how you eat, how you deal with your stress, those are lifestyle. That's not something a pill is going to fix. And according to the American Heart Association, so they set a goal in 2010 to reduce deaths from heart disease by 20% by 2020. So in 2015, actually, it got worse. So the American Heart Association, the only inroads they made in improving heart health for Americans were to get people quitting smoking. There was no diabetes decrease, there was no weight decrease, there was no stress decrease. And so we have worsening obesity and diabetes rates, and that's a societal factor too, because if you're wealthy, it's really a lot easier to eat organically, right? Even depending on where you live in the United States. I have clients all over the country, And I almost take it for granted here where I am in California that you can walk into a grocery store and have just about anything organic that you want. And that is not the case in most of the country. And so that's certainly a factor as well. And there's inadequate access to healthcare, which is why I set up the site and this podcast. So let's look at risk factors for heart disease. High blood pressure, right? So when you have high blood pressure, what that is doing is it's damaging the inside of your arteries. It's like, all of that fluid is jamming against the endothelium inside your arteries, and it's sloughing off cells that then, because of nutritional deficiencies, or you've got other issues that are going on, and so your body needs to direct nutrition to areas that need it as well. And your arteries kind of take a back seat to that, because your brain and your lungs or other areas of your body need it more specifically. Plus, most Americans are nutritionally deficient. We're not eating the things that we need to eat in order to get the nutrient levels needed for repair all over the body. Or we're not sleeping enough so that you can actually repair. So our food, I've talked a lot about this. The food in the United States has decreased in nutritional value outrageously. So there was something that said you needed to eat 8 oranges today to get the vitamin C and bioflavonoid equivalent to 1 orange 25 years ago. And so that's why supplementation is so important. But that's also why it's so important to have more and more vegetables and fruits in the diet. So high cholesterol is also a risk factor for heart disease and stroke, but it's a little less obvious than you think, because cholesterol is used as a Band-Aid to help kind of like spackle the integrity of the vessels when they start to weaken from high blood pressure. High blood pressure exposes collagen into the lining, which then triggers an inflammatory cascade, because when you see collagen, when the blood sees collagen, that means that there's damage, and so it needs to start to heal. And so different foam cells go in there to heal, and cholesterol goes in to give that vessel integrity so it doesn't blow out and you bleed, which would be even worse. And so what happens is, because there's so much damage in the body and there aren't enough resources to repair, cholesterol gets stuck in there. Diabetes leads to inflammation, especially in the endothelium, because high blood sugar is like broken glass going through and damaging the inner lining of the arteries as well, exposing collagen, and then you have all of that inflammation. And that's why high sensitivity CRP is one of the tests that's run in order to look at cardiovascular risk, because that's C-reactive protein is an inflammatory marker, specifically, well, not really specific, but it's more specific than general C-reactive protein for the cardiovascular system. And that's why that inflammation is something that we really need to address. Overweight and obesity. I think it's mind-blowing that a lot of doctors and providers, even now in 2019, believe that diabetes type 2 is just something that happens. It's just something that happens. I mean, it's insanity to think that if you're eating corn and wheat and rice and processed food and high fructose corn syrup and added sugars and sodas, and you're packing on weight and your blood sugar is going up, but that has nothing to do with you getting diabetes type 2, it blows my mind. And so these are lifestyle factors. If your blood sugars, they're high most often because of what you're putting in your face. And so the poor diet is a huge piece of it. Stress is also a huge piece of it, sleep, but physical inactivity is another, obviously, right? If you're not moving, your heart isn't pumping, you're not getting that cardiovascular fitness. And so a lot of people are wearing, their little Fitbits. You can see my little nerdy Star Wars bracelet as well. But Fitbits, I use mine to help monitor my sleep and hold me accountable to go to bed, like that Samuel Jackson book. Well, the one that he reads, not the one that he wrote. So the Fitbit helps hold me accountable. Plus, I can sit a lot. I'm on the phone, I'm on the computer, and it also helps remind me when to move, because if you don't move your ass, that is probably the most dangerous thing that you can do for your body. You will become encased in a shell of muscles and bones that hurt, and joints that don't move well, and your heart and your lungs just start to atrophy. You don't have the endocrine and metabolic stimulus, you lose muscle mass, and that's a huge reason why we age. Plus, if you're not exercising, it's going to be more difficult to sleep, and you're going to store extra calories that you eat. Your endocrine system, like your endorphin levels, which raise blood pressure from stress and inflammation, don't get burned off. And so that just sits in your body and causes problems. Now, excessive alcohol is a risk factor for cardiovascular disease, as well as smoking and pollution. Pollution, toxins, toxicants, the role that they play in human health. I can't wait for conventional medicine to really get on board with it. I was watching something about Flint, Michigan last night, and they were there was a doctor on there that was talking about lead and how there are no safe levels of lead in a human, and there's no way to get them out. So there are no safe levels of lead in a human, but there are ways to get it out, and it's called chelation. And IV chelation with EDTA is an FDA-approved treatment to help remove lead that gets stuck in calcifications and plaque and clean out the arteries. Now, is that a first-line treatment? Not necessarily. There's a lot of other things that can be done as well. But you know what, if you're having significant occlusion and you're got this much room for your blood to go through, then it can be certainly a great option. And so if you contact me, I work like a concierge service, referring you to people that are well trained, that you can trust, because it's not a treatment that you want just anybody to do. It's very specialized. So with functional medicine, what we want to do is address the underlying causes of disease in a systems-oriented approach. And so we've been talking about systems. We've got the cardiovascular, like heart and arteries system. We've got our respiratory system that goes along with that because it feeds in, there's just blood flow from the heart. And then we've got our endocrine system with like our stress hormones, even our sex hormones certainly have a role. We've got our neurology that has a role in, internalized stress, which can raise hormone levels, which can affect the heart, etc. And so we want to look at the interactions between genetic, environmental, and like lifestyle factors in all of these systems to see how we can best approach what's going to help heal you. And so we need to recognize the risks and treat the cause, because if you don't treat the cause, you're just, I heard something, it was like throwing a Band-Aid on a chainsaw wound. It's one of my new favorites. And so well, I'll get to statin drugs because it's my personal pet peeve. But if you're just going to take a statin drug, you're 70 years old, your blood lipids are high, and you want to decrease your risk, there's absolutely no research showing that statin drugs help over the age of 65. Yet what do? They're linked to dementia as well as diabetes. And so you're putting a Band-Aid on this thing that you can measure in your labs. And it was like, oh, well, your cholesterol levels are down, but guess what? Your risk isn't, because we haven't treated the cause of why those cholesterol levels are high in the first place. So move your ass. Number one, get up, move, get a Fitbit, get a shock collar, anything, walk, do squats, get a stand-up desk, move. And if you're like, well, I can't move much, it's the little things. Start getting present in your body. See how you sit, see how your posture is. Where do you feel your pain? How do you, address that? Even with little things. When you're doing the dishes, how is your weight distributed between your feet? Can you do little calf raises while you brush your teeth? It's baby steps. Now, for those of you doing Ironmans and, Bikram yoga 17 times a week and all of that, you're good. But who I'm talking to, it's just this huge sedentary, population of our country and our world even, because possibly you don't have the energy, or you don't have time, or you don't know what to do, or you can't afford a personal trainer. And sorry, but those are all excuses. Make it a priority, because if you say, I don't have time, that means it's not a priority. And so that's true. Truth hurts, right? Make time. And it doesn't have to be crazy. You can build muscle in very short periods of time. And there's tons of research. And I even have these tiny little rubber bands that I travel with, where I can do, resistance exercise in 5 minutes just to get the blood flowing. And is it the best thing to do? No. But is it, how I live my bad girl life and have a little bit of exercise when, in between my walking and my sporadic Tough Mudders? Yeah, that's how I'm managing it currently. So move your ass. Why? Well, it improves your skeletal muscle and your metabolism. Muscle burns calories while you sit, while you sleep. It's highly, highly metabolic. It increases that blood flow, which helps with blood pressure because you're opening up a whole area of your body to get blood flow. And it helps with pain. It increases capillary density so that if you have elevated blood pressure because you're all locked down and you're tense and your muscles don't need anything, you're opening up more of the system to help it move. It's like holding on to the end of a hose, right? That if you occlude that, then higher pressure comes through. If there's more room, then it can lower that pressure. Exercise decreases oxidative stress, right? Which is, from your metabolism, from hormones, even, from stress, obviously, from toxicants. It reduces your sympathetic arousal. So we've got our parasympathetic system and our sympathetic system. We've got the sympathetic system is fight or flight, which most of us live in. And the parasympathetic is rest and digest and repair, I would add. And so you want to have that balancing, because if you don't have it balanced, then you're going to be more aroused and more anxious and have more trouble sleeping and more trouble digesting and heartburn and constipation and insomnia and inflammation. And so it helps lower all of that, helps with your sympathetic tone. And I mean, a great example is if you exercise well, you're usually pooping well, you're usually sleeping well, and those are two huge quality of life indicators, as far as that goes. So it also reduces arrhythmias that you may possibly have, and it's good for just about everything that can go wrong with the human body. And so then diet, God, I mean, we've talked a lot about diet. If you want to have improved heart health, and I'm going to talk about some things that you can add into your diet in order to get certain nutrients that have been research-based to help decrease cardiovascular disease. But even the CDC has made recommendations on diet as far as how to improve health. And you really want to do, good, clean proteins and lots of vegetables. I feel like I'm in a disco with my light issue here. So our American diet is abbreviated Standard American Diet, or SAD, SAD, and it's a steaming pile of garbage as far as what most people eat. Give up your sodas. You really want to lose weight? Don't eat potatoes or rice or wheat or corn. You will lose weight if you do those things. Now, then people are like, well, I get cravings. I have these sugar cravings. Well, then we need to look at whether you have a crazy amount of candida in your gut, and those are craving the sugars in your digestive system and altering your, needs and your cravings, or whether you're stress eating. And then there are things that we can do to support those two aspects, kill off those candida, first of all, if that's the issue, and also help balance your brain chemistry and your blood sugar so you're not having these cravings that sabotage yourself. I was talking to a client this week. She's like, I don't eat lunch, and then I get because I'm so busy, and then I get cravings, and then I eat things I know that I shouldn't. And so, well, how do we set you up for success so that you have a snack, your alarm rings, you eat it, you're going to stabilize your blood sugar, it's not going to tank, and you're not going to go into these addictive behaviors that are associated with certain foods. And so give up the grains. God, it's one of the easiest things that you can do in order to improve your diet, because you don't need them. If you're not running marathons, you do not need them. You can get plenty of energy from the healthy fats that you eat and the protein that you eat. And so there's a lot of evidence. Well, what do grains do? Well, they raise your blood sugar because they're just like smoking a cigarette with a longer filter. They're just long chains of sugar, and they're really easily digested, and they start to get digested in your mouth. I did a podcast on this called Sugar, and you can listen to that if you want to learn a little bit more about what's going on in the body and how it metabolizes sugar. But we have these recommendations in the food pyramid showing that you need to eat 9 to 11 servings of carbohydrates a day, but then you have to spend 90 minutes every single day in the gym. And I know you are not doing that. So now, fat in the diet has gotten a really bad rap. And it's something that I think was lobbied by the sugar industry personally, which very well may have been the corn syrup industry as well. But when you're looking at saturated fat intake, and there are genetic effects that can actually interfere with this. And so that's why I recommend getting the nutrition genome. You can find the link on how to get that at Naturopathic MD on Facebook and on our webpage, because it's going to tell you how to eat optimally for your genetics. And some people have more sensitivity to saturated fat, raising blood sugar and causing more insulin problems. So there are good research studies that have shown that it's not the fat intake that raises cholesterol. In fact, a diet high in added sugars has been found to cause a 3-fold increase in risk of death due to cardiovascular disease. Sugar is the real I'm cleaning up my language. Sugar is to blame for so many things that go wrong with the body. And it's in everything. It's in every processed food. So don't eat them. Don't eat processed foods. Cook for yourself. Go for a whole foods diet. If you're like, oh, well, that takes too much time. Eat a carrot. Eat a celery stick. You know how long it takes to make a salad? Not very long. And make sure you get good dressing as well. And I actually have an Amazon list that you can look up as well. It's under the Bad Girls Guide to Living Well. There's a link on webpage and Facebook with that too, to show you like healthy dressings that you can order and get that don't have added sugar, that still are delicious, or make vinaigrettes. It's not rocket science, and it's one of the most important decisions and lifestyle changes that you can possibly make for your health. And that's why smoothies are nice. Get a bullet, like the NutriBullet or the Magic Bullet, and make yourself a protein-rich smoothie in the morning with berries and a good detoxification powder full of nutrients. And it's like a multivitamin in the morning that's going to set you up for success. Because the Western dietary program, you walk into a Starbucks, I go into Starbucks, not so much anymore because I've got my little stainless steel French press that I use to make my own coffee in the morning, because I do drink coffee with cream and sugar, but that's my choice. I like to have it that way. And you know what? I don't eat French fries and potato chips, and I get to have a little bit of sugar in my coffee. It's all about balance. Oh, I do want to brag a little bit though. I went to buy wine last night, and I was checking out, and the woman asked me for my ID, and I snorted and I rolled my eyes and I handed it to her, and she said, "Wow, you've aged well." And I was like, "Ooh, right?" I said, "Well, I thought that you were asking just about everybody, right?" She goes, "No." She goes, "You look way younger." And I'm like, "Sweet." And I took my wine and I left the store. But this is it. This is the bad girl's guide to living well. I lead a relatively clean lifestyle and still am able to, drink my wine and my gluten-free beer every now and then, and have a whiskey and cut loose with my brother watching football and eating cheeseburgers. Those are things that I love to do. And still, I guess I'm doing an all right job. Now, with the dietary aspect, I eat a lot of vegetables, a lot. And I do my smoothies in the morning. And I still eat red meat because it is delicious and I feel better when I eat it. And with the other aspects that I'm doing with my health, I guess it's going all right. Like my blood pressure is beautiful. I do have a slight arrhythmia, but that's because I think my heart was broken. And so we're working on that on an emotional level, and as well as minerals and sleep and stress management, which is probably a big part of the rest of it. But the Western diet, our Western diet, which is high in fat and carbohydrates, saturated fats, trans fats, fried, rancid fats, and carbohydrates and sugars, as well as a minimal consumption of fruits and green leafy vegetables, it's associated with severe heart disease, right? Most United States adults consume more added sugar than is recommended for a healthy diet. There is a significant relationship between added sugar consumption and increased risk for cardiovascular disease mortality. And I'll post these studies. Consumption of one or more soft drink a day was associated with increased odds of developing metabolic syndrome, obesity, increased weight circumference, impaired fasting glucose, higher blood pressure, hypertriglyceridemia, and low HDL, which is good cholesterol. So is diet soda the answer? Well, no. You might as well never drink a diet soda again, because it raises your insulin just as much and it increases diabetes just as much as regular soda. And so get Zevias. Like, I love Zevias because they're sweetened with stevia and they don't raise the blood sugar, and you can still get a little bit of bubbly if you like it. If you're a real, person that really loves the soda, sometimes I put bubbly water in juice, and I like that just as much. So we talked about movement. We talked about diet. Now let's talk about the microbiome. Another one of my favorite things, right? The bacteria that live in your body. I have a keyword in Google that sends me, updates about things that have posted about, microbiome and thing. And microbiome is one of them. And it was talking about microbiome in the human mouth and role in periodontal disease, which, as we know, it has come out that there is an associated risk between heart disease and diabetes, and what the bacteria in your mouth and periodontal disease and inflammation that comes from that. We have all of these organisms that live in our body, and they play a role in our health that is just, it's wild. And guess what? If you come into contact with Roundup or glyphosate because you're eating GMO foods, or you live on a golf course, or you think that GMOs are going to save the world, so yay, or you drink it because the CEO says that you can, or you spray it around your house, or it's in your water and you're not filtering your water, that acts as a pesticide to kill off the good bacteria in your gut and change how your microbiome is balanced. And so probiotics, this is why I say probiotics are so important. But you know what else changes your microbiome? Exercise and diet. No way. What are the two big things that you can do? move, and stop eating like an asshole. So there is chronic inflammation that comes from having different bacteria in your gut. And so making sure that you have a beneficial ratio of those bacteria in your digestive system, in your eyes, your ears, your nose, your throat, your mouth, your just about everywhere, your skin, having that balanced is going to decrease inflammation, because you can activate inflammatory cascades with having improper bacteria in your body, as well as infections and allergies and autoimmune diseases, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to read you a conclusion from a study that talked about the microbiome and antibiotics. So the global epidemic of obesity and other metabolic diseases, in particular type 2 diabetes and atherosclerosis, has led to the search for both environmental and internal factors that may have an impact on their development. Well, finally, right? We want to look at the cause. And so the fact is that intestinal microbiota have an significant impact on the health of the organism and on the development of such dysfunctions. The complexity of the human body and interactions between metabolic diseases and the gut microbiome means that research is constantly developing in this area. Finally, accurate knowledge of commensal bacterial strains, which is like beneficial, and their impact on the host could be a milestone in the development of targeted microbial therapy of metabolic diseases with a proven immune-mediated background. So they're going to be looking for probiotics to help address these diseases that are out of balance because of diet and exercise and lifestyle. But it also brings up an interesting question about what antibiotics have led to as far as the continued increase in diabetes and heart disease. And so at this point, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk more about how to keep your heart healthy.
Do you remember the last time you felt healthy and energetic? What would you do if you could regain your health and feel good again? Enjoy spending time with your family? Take a trip. Get back to being active and doing the things that you love. Naturopathic MD can help because we practice natural, functional, logical medicine. Have you ever cut yourself and taken a prescription to stop the bleeding, but the cut stayed open? No, because your body can heal itself. Cuts are usually easy to heal, but chronic diseases like diabetes, heart disease, and digestive problems need the expert support we can provide. Are you ready to take action and get your life back? Sign up for one of our elite concierge programs today.
All right, so you have heard me talk a lot about the microbiome, I'm sure. So what changes the microbiome? We know diet does. You need more fiber. I'm not a big fan of Viome because you know what? Just eat your fiber and your fructooligosaccharides and your microbiome is going to shift in a beneficial way if you move and sleep and take probiotics. I don't think that's rocket science. What we need to do is figure out whether there's bad bacteria in there and how to kill them quick. Now, pesticides and herbicides I talked about. Now let's talk about drugs. What changes the microbiome? Metformin, which is the first stage treatment, first line treatment for diabetes is metformin. It's not stop eating sugar and don't eat pasta, and like diabetes magazines in the grocery store make me want to light things on fire. Metformin changes the gut bacteria, which then can increase your blood sugar. Plus, it's terrible on the kidneys. It's crazy. Sucralose or fake sugars, and this may be another reason why you have elevated blood sugars associated with diet sodas and fake sugars, because it changes your gut microbiome. Arsenic, lead, so how do we test? Well, we can do a gut analysis and see if that's an issue, or you can just start taking probiotics Even though that's not treating the whole person, it's a good first start. So sleep, good Lord. Sleep disorders can result in high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, heart failure, obesity. If you are not sleeping 8 hours a night well and deeply and uninterrupted, you have increased risk of death from just about anything. And it's almost impossible to lose weight. So studies show that there is an increased mortality risk for those who sleep less than 6 or 7 hours a night. When was the last time you got more than 6 hours of sleep a night? Reduced sleep time is a bigger risk of death than smoking, high blood pressure, and heart disease. Go the F to sleep. So also, taking a sleep medication more than 17 times a year increases your risk of dying from cancer as much as smoking cigarettes. There's a hormonal factor in there that we can certainly help with. Now, why can't people sleep? Stress, anxiety, hormone imbalances, hot flashes, night sweats, obesity, sleep apnea, inflammation. Sleep apnea and inflammation are tied so closely together. If you're eating a lot of food sensitivities that you have, you'll snore like a freaking bear. If you don't eat those, then I bet you snore less. Plus, if you lose weight, then you have less weight pushing on your airway while you sleep. So there are things that can be done that don't need a CPAP, which, doesn't help with your stress hormones anyway, because you're fighting this air that's being pushed into your body all night. Even though, it'll help in some ways, it's not totally perfect. So medications that can make it difficult for you to sleep: albuterol, ADD, ADHD meds, alpha blockers, beta blockers. Oh, well, those are high blood pressure medications, right? Corticosteroids for inflammation and autoimmune disease and allergies, antidepressants, ACE inhibitors for blood pressure, ARBs for blood pressure, statin drugs as well. And so we're having these medications that have a side effect of difficulty sleeping, and they're just, it's just a vicious cycle that's not treating anything at all. So toxins in the environment are linked to cardiovascular disease and death, autoimmune disease, cancer, dementia, ADD, ADHD, autism, and obesity. There are things called obesogens, or persistent organic pollutants, and they're passed from mother to child. And we have, crazy amounts in our body, and I test for them. And I also detoxify people regularly to get these toxins out of their system, so it's one less thing that they have to worry about. Then we have all these crazy exposures, day to day, from our makeup to our, perfumes and the air we breathe. It's amazing. So where I live, we have the 14th worst air particulate pollution in the nation. And it irritates the lining of the vessels, increases inflammation, and is a definite risk factor for heart disease, as well as lung disease. And it also increases diabetes risk. Get an air filter, please. So in the year 2000, the World Health Organization estimated that 6.4 million years of healthy life were lost from particulate matter in the air across the world. That was 800,000 deaths. You know what can help decrease the inflammatory cascade from particulate pollution and the cardiac problems that come from that? B vitamins. No way, right? You don't necessarily need to have an antiarrhythmic drug or, take a medicine for the rest of your life. You need B vitamins, which are, coincidentally decreased when you're under a lot of oxidative stress, because they're needed in the liver to get those toxicants out. And so B vitamins, activated B vitamins, are something that I put everybody on, because you need them for your brain, for your liver, your mitochondria and all of your energy pathways, your hormone metabolism and production, everything. And while B vitamins are found pretty easily in foods like meats, etc., a lot of times we have genetic issues where we don't activate them well. Like you've heard of the MTHFR, my favorite enzyme. Like that enzyme, you can have a deficiency in being able to activate folic acid or folate to its active form so you can use it. And that's where we have people have increased risk of cancer and neurological problems, addiction, you name it. And so that's why I think an activated B complex is a great thing to put people on. So you want to eat your colors, eat colorful fruits and vegetables. They have bioflavonoids in them that are going to help with the strength of your body. So essential fatty acids, omega-3 polyunsaturated fatty acids like fish oil, improve the lining of your vessels and decrease the risk of atherosclerosis or occlusion of the arteries. Now let's talk about cholesterol before we get too crazy here, because most people get a total lipid panel, right? And they'll get triglycerides and HDL and LDL. And HDL is good cholesterol, right? Conventionally. And LDL is bad cholesterol. And then you take your statin drug and your levels go down and everybody's happy. But guess what? Your cardiovascular risk has not decreased. And the lipid test is a steaming pot. I won't use that again. It's an awful test because it doesn't really look at your risk. Finally, they throw in, inflammation sometimes. But we want to see the size and the shape of these cardiovascular, these lipid particles. If they're big and fluffy, they're a lot less dangerous than if they're small and dense. And so we look, and we can look at an enzyme that shows whether you're forming plaque or not. And then there are natural things that you can take in order to clean out your blood vessels that have been proven. And it's awesome. They're herbs and it's not marijuana, sorry, but they're safe, effective ways to help improve your cardiovascular system while you do the groundwork of sleeping and eating right and moving, taking good supplementation, healthy fats, minerals, B vitamins. Like that's the secret, really. It's not a huge secret. And in doing that build up from the bottom and then also working at the top to help clean out your arteries, improve your vascular function, then you're significantly decreasing your cardiovascular risk. And so olive oil by itself, like healthy olive oil. Now, olive oil companies have been tested and not all of them are pure olive oil. You can look that up online as far as, a lot of them are frauds. They're not really using good olive oil. You want it in a dark glass bottle, but olive oil by itself was able to improve the lipid profile, how well your body reacts to sugar and insulin sensitivity. Coincidentally, olive leaf from the same damn tree has been proven to clean out atherosclerotic plaques. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite. Olives, love it. Maybe it's because I'm Italian, but I guess that's, heart health. Nothing more loving than an Italian family, right? And olive oil cures everything according to my family. So dietary cholesterol and fat intake, we had a study that came out a couple of years ago. Everybody got the news flash that you can eat eggs again because the cholesterol you eat in your diet isn't raising your cardiovascular risk. It's crazy. So how do we help with high lipids that are dangerous? Okay. Plant sterols, soluble fibers. So that's like healthy plant fats and fiber help improve your lipid profile. Berberine, I love it. It's one of my favorites. Golden seal, Oregon grape, and barberry. They help with cholesterol uptake in the liver by increasing how it reacts to LDL. And that's probably how it also decreases blood sugar. Berberine has the same genetic effects, because there's a lot of anti-aging doctors out there that are like, oh, take metformin prophylactically. You know, it's really good. It upregulates these anti-aging genes. Yeah, and it makes it less likely for you to sleep. And why would you put something that's unnatural in your body when berberine activates that same enzyme system? Red rice yeast you can do, but it's really just like a statin drug. You know, some of the drug companies tried to sue red rice yeast producers for infringing on their copyrights, even though it was the other way around because they patented a natural substance. Pomegranate decreases LDL and helps improve atherosclerosis. It's got beautiful bioflavonoids in it. It's so nicely, gorgeously red, and that's really, you know, red. It's associated with blood and your blood vessels. So berberine is really good for type 2 diabetes. And it's not just running in your family. It's not just bad genes. It's not bad luck. If you are overweight, stressed out, and have high blood pressure and high lipids, that's not where it comes from. I mean, there's genetic elements, as obviously, and there's, you know, environmental effects, you know, whether they're toxicants from the environment or toxicants from the people that you live with or associate with, or toxicants from hating your job and oxidative stress that goes along with that. This is a lifestyle problem. And it's reflected in labs, you know, obviously, as far as, you know, hormones and stress and inflammation, but it's also reflected in how we feel in our bodies and whether we're happy every day. You know, another lab thing that you can look at as far as a lab marker is homocysteine. And homocysteine shows oxidative stress in the body, and it makes it more likely for you to get clots. Now, just want to do a little bit of a pep talk, or like, I don't know if I'm really a good motivational speaker. I think I curse too much, but is it really that important for you to eat that McDonald's cheeseburger with French fries and Coke? Because it is stealing your life. Processed food, sitting on your ass, it's stealing your life minute by minute. Smoking, same thing. I had a family member that used to smoke and be like, that's going to take years off your life. He's like, well, they're the worst ones. Fair enough. But you know what? If you have a stroke and you're paralyzed, those are the worst years of your life trapped in your body, right? Having to depend on your family to wipe your ass because you decided that you didn't want to pay attention to what you were doing in your life day to day. The choices that you make day to day are the most important determinants of how you're going to spend this incredible gift that you have called life. Do you want to be miserable? Do you want to spend it sitting on the couch killing 1 trillion zombies? Like when you, in a video game that could be just like any other, you know, is that how you want to look back on your life and be like, well, I killed an awful lot of zombies, or I knew all those football stats. I know that's a little, I might get struck by lightning since it's Super Bowl weekend, but whatever, you know, I'd love a good game of football, but it's not going to be what I really want to value and look back on my life as far as the mark that I made. Is it the ass groove in your couch that you're going to be proud of? Or is it living the life that you dream and wish that you could, but you're putting yourself, you have blocks mentally as far as what you're doing, right? So you eat emotionally, or you stress and you can't sleep, or you do these behaviors to try to make yourself feel better because they're easier and it's what your mother did or your father did, when you have to break free. You should read the book called You Are a Badass. I think it's great. It actually mirrors a lot of my favorite Abraham Hicks. Just go out and live your dream. Otherwise, why are you wasting your freaking life? You can do it. I believe that heart disease and the stress that, you know, it's from the stress that comes from just existing, right? You're doing the job that your parents thought you should do. You're in the marriage you thought you should be in because it looked good on paper, like you're just getting along, paying the bills, but your soul is dying and your health is reflecting that. And you are the only one that can change it. And so you can read You Are a Badass, which is it's pretty good. It's inspiring. It's very funny. She's a good author. I like her. And make the changes. It's like a little to-do, it's got ways that you can change your life by changing how you feel every day. I mean, we're talking about love. It's February. We're talking about heart disease. Love your life. Ask yourself, do you love your life? Because the emotions that you have a physiological effect. And if you do not love your life, changing that is the most important thing that you can do because your life depends on it. And you know what? You will feel better if you eat more salad and do squats and get out in the sunshine and do something that makes your heart sing. Otherwise, what the hell's the point? All right, maybe that was an all right motivational speech. I don't know how many times I cursed in it. Another great book that you can read that my brother got me he got me the Cliff Notes anyway. I'm not exactly sure why, but The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Duck. I have a 3-year-old in my house, or 4-year-old. And so we have to use duck for another word. But that's another good read as far as like how you can change your emotions and your motivations in order to change your life for the better, because otherwise, what's the point of living it? So if you're under emotional stress and you're not living your dream and you're just blah through life, then there are inflammatory markers that show up in your body that show that and lead to disease like cancer and heart disease and autoimmune disease. The body and the mind are connected. You cannot separate them, and you cannot medicate it with an antidepressant and have any kind of efficacy. So if you have high homocysteine, you need B12 and folic acid. And then that's where that MTHFR gene comes in. You may be eating green leafy vegetables or taking a prenatal with folic acid, and you're not activating it, so you can't use it. And that's why epigenetics are so important to look at in a functional medicine and integrative medicine format. And so I hope that you're getting a little bit excited about what you can do in order to decrease your heart attack and stroke risk and diabetes, right? Because it all comes down to inflammation. At Naturopathic MD, we talk a lot about inflammation and how it is a driver in most disease. So take your turmeric, green tea, and resveratrol. They decrease your inflammatory risks. It's a trifecta of awesomeness. And you should definitely have those in your repertoire of supplementation, along with olive leaf and berberine for metabolic diseases, because they are going to help improve your health significantly. Now, garlic helps, fish oil helps, Brazil nuts, selenium, your magnesium, but really we want to treat the cause, and everybody's a little bit different. And we don't want to just make it like a allopathic green allopathy where, you can take these, vitamins and minerals instead of drugs and everything's going to be peachy, where they just translate exactly. And they don't. We have to look at the lifestyle. We have to look at what makes your heart sing. We have to look at sleep and movement and diet and epigenetics and how your body is working. How's your digestion working? We have to look at it all together to get a personalized program, because otherwise you can get really disappointed when nothing works. And that's why working with an expert is so important. And that's why I set up naturopathicmd.com so that you could work with experts and get referred to people in your area to help support you in this process, because your body is the only thing you get to drive around. And replacement parts are really hard to find. And they're not perfect, obviously, right? Until we get our 3D printers like Westworld. But we want to empower you with knowledge in order to make these big changes for your health long term, so you can enjoy quality of life and do the things that you do love. Don't wait, don't put it off. So you can follow us on Facebook at Naturopathic MD. We're on Instagram as well, Naturopathic MD, where I upload pictures about what I do in my life to do the little life hack cheats so I can still be a bad girl. This is a companion podcast for naturopathicmd.com. Send us an email and we can let you know how we can help you wherever you are in the country or even the world. So this is Dr. Heather Dowen with the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well. I hope you enjoyed this today. It probably could have been a much longer session, but it's close to my heart, as you can see. I mean, statin drugs are terrible and they increase risk. And take your CoQ10 if you're on a statin drug, 200 milligrams a day, twice a day. And it decreases your muscle aches and your likelihood of getting cardiomyopathy as well as dementia. So that'll leave you with that CoQ10. Take it with fat. It increases the absorption. So this has been Dr. Heather Dowen with naturopathicmd.com and the Bad Girl's Guide to Living Well. And I'll see you next week, Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
You've been listening to the
Okay, you're clear.
Thanks, Cam.
All right. Thanks, my dear. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.